blurring the lines between real life and second life. Bringing you in-depth information about the people behind the avatars. Giving you insight like you've never heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fourth Wall. I am the scumbag superstar Paul Slater alongside my podcast partner BK. And Z again is not with us, but BK, we have a special guest today. All our guests are special. We have another special guest today.
Yeah, well, first of all, before we get started on this, yes, just to let everybody know, Z's real life mom is undergoing some chemo and things like that. So prayers with her, and she probably won't be around for a while. So everybody just keep her in the thoughts and prayers, and the family and the mom. But yes, you are absolutely right. We do have a special guest, and this one is one of those going to be very, very interesting because by her own admission, she could probably just put a spell on everybody and make you sit here and listen and like her anyway. So I would, pay attention just because you want to. But we have the one and only SL's resident witch. We have Sabrina Ireland in the studio today. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
Okay, so we're going to get right down to this. We're going to get this right out of the way because this is something I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. I used to work for you in AVW. Why did I get fired?
I knew that was coming. Honestly, I had just started running AVW and I was still learning the ropes on what to do and stuff. And I fired you prematurely, honestly.
Okay. All right. Well, at least you admitted your mistake, so thank you very much. So now let's get to the reason. so let's get to the reason you are here. And normally, and if you've listened to our previous shows, one thing that we try to do is we try to keep a very good balance between the person behind the avatar and the avatar itself. That blend that we talk about. But yours is one of the most interesting ones that we've had because this is something that I can kind of sort of relate to a little bit. So we're actually going to be touching a little bit more on your real life because when people see the thumbnail, they're going to understand. But you self-admit and you have come out and you say that you are a witch.
That is correct. Yes, I at least in my mind, believe that I am a witch, yes.
Okay, so
I study witchcraft.
Hold on, BK. I gave Sabrina my real life birthday, and she's going to do something today with my birthday. I don't know what it is, so I'm kind of nervous.
Well, originally I was going to do your astrology chart, but I have been so busy with Premiere and AVW that I did not get to it for today.
Right.
But I will get to it soon, possibly next week.
There you go.
Okay, so now Tiesa Pierce just put into our chat, she says he don't believe in astrology, which I would say that she is talking about Paul.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to lie, I don't either.
And that's fair. I'm not out to make you believe or any of that. You believe what you want to believe. And, I will respect that. All I ask is that you guys respect my belief as well.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting. And that's why we wanted to talk to you about that because we were both interested in it.
Well, yeah, because like my real life wife, she started off getting into crystal healing is where she kind of got started.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's a lot like me. There's just some things she refuses to take, and we hate going to doctors because they're not always right.
Understandable.
Right. So she started with the healing crystals, and things started helping. And then, of course, we have our autistic son, and she started getting more into it about, well, could crystals help him? With things like patience and understanding. And now both of them have got like $1 million worth of crystals laying all over the house, and think about it, every single one of them has a specific function.
Yes.
And
yes.
This is the only thing I can say about it is with the crystals, I kind of changed my mind because as OCD as our son is because of his other issues, There is not one of his crystals that he cannot tell you verbatim what it's for, and
That's awesome.
he knows if you've ever, like if I go in to clean his room and I move one and it's not in the exact
Mm-hmm.
same place, or if I accidentally move it over somewhere,
Yep.
he knows where all of them are, and though he protects those, kind of like Gollum want to protect the precious
Mm-hmm.
in Lord of the Rings.
That's great. That's a wonderful thing for him to be attached to.
Right.
I mean, there's so
So
many things that could be worse.
right. So what I was getting, so that long explanation was going into, where she started out with the crystal healing, and now it's gotten our son into it. What got you started in it, and what has been your journey to where you are right now?
Um, Honestly, what got me started was the movie The Craft. Cliche, I know, absolutely. But that got my mind thinking. Obviously, it's not quite the same as movie magic. I can't float across the room or anything like that.
Have you tried?
Um, but that's what got me started. And as my journey continued, I came to realize that my entire family was witches.
Now, how did you find that out? Like, what was like, did you do back history, genealogy, anything like that? How did you find out that you had a
Um,
lineage of that?
well, it was mostly, old wives' tales. You know, you spill the salt, so you throw a pinch over your shoulder, or just little things like that. Those are basically witchcraft. All those little superstition things that you guys do is a form of witchcraft. And, I'm from a very old family in West Virginia. Okay. And they've got a lot of hoodoo in their family.
You said
And,
a
Now,
lot of
now,
voodoo. Is that what you said?
no, hoodoo, H
Oh,
O O
oh, I thought
D O
voodoo. I
O.
was like, oh, all right,
No,
oh,
no.
okay, okay, you're gonna have to explain
Yeah.
that one.
yeah.
Hoodoo is just the mountain version of voodoo, kind of. There's a lot of very similarities. But yeah, it's hoodoo is basically, it comes from the mountains. My family is from West Virginia. It might be somewhere else. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, it's just little superstitions. It's the same thing.
Now, like, do you like, how they have, oh God, I just lost my train of thought. Like, do you foresee things? Like, do you get like feelings that something's going to happen and then something happens?
Yeah, I have
Like
premonitions.
deja vu, or like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Oh, I have
premonitions. That's the
lots
word.
of deja.
That's
I
the
have a
word.
lot of deja
Premonitions.
vu. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting.
Okay, so you said that you come from a long line, and then of course you said West Virginia. So are we talking about you trace back? And I'm not making fun of it. I understand a lot of this,
Hmm.
comes from movies and TV and all that. But even in history books, are we talking like being burned at the stake type stuff?
Yeah. If you believe in past lives, one of my past lives, yes, I was in the Salem witch trials.
And you discovered this how?
Through my dreams,
Okay.
honestly. Um, a lot of things happen in your dreams, and sometimes you can remember them, and sometimes you don't.
I'm a big dream
And
person.
yeah, and I have a lot of vivid dreams. They can sometimes predict the future.
Okay.
Sometimes they can show me the past,
Okay.
or guide me at the current moment if I'm in a situation where I don't know where to go.
I'll give you one thing, BK. When the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, okay.
Oh my!
Hold
No!
on.
No!
Let me
No!
tell the story.
No! No!
Let me tell
No!
the
No!
story.
No!
You gotta let me tell it, because I'm gonna
Oh
just let
my
me tell it.
God!
So,
All
I
right.
was gonna place a wager on the game, right? So I said to
Oh,
Sabrina, because me and her briefly talked about, the witchcraft thing and all that stuff. I said, hey, you could predict stuff. You said, right? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, Eagles and the Chiefs. Who do you think's gonna win? And she said, I'm gonna right now the Eagles are gonna win big. I'm like, are you $500 short on that? Or are you $1,000 short on that? And she wrote $950 short of that. And she was right. Something like that. It was something like that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so does that mean after we get done doing the recording, you're going to tell me we're going to go in and we're going to split a couple of $100 worth of lottery tickets, and the rest of
I don't know about that.
it's
Doesn't
well,
quite
I
work
mean,
that way, but
oh, okay, yeah,
I wish it
but you know,
did. Trust me, I wish it did.
like all those psychics say, we can see everything, but we can't tell you what. Well, then you can't see too much in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I kind of come into the thing where I'm kind of like, I don't know about
Nope,
that.
I get it. But as far as that goes, as for me, anyways, um, I'm not doing anything for personal gain. If you do it for personal gain, then it's kind of a bad juju,
Uh-huh.
if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I could predict lottery numbers and win big if I really, really, really tried. But at the end of the day, I would probably get in some shit for it with the gods upstairs. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay,
Shit,
so
I'd be using that for personal gain all the time. I'm sorry, I would.
yeah, but you're a scumbag. But
Yeah,
you're a
of
scumbag.
course. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you said that the movie The Craft is what got you started with all this and
Yes.
piqued your interest, but I'm sure somewhere along the way, you're like, why am I really doing this? Is this really worth it? What has actually been your motivation? Has it just been the fascination or the history or
Um,
or are you one of those that every once in a while you get a little bratty streak in you and you use it to your advantage to scare the shit out of people, or you tell them you're a witch just to get the reaction?
while that sounds absolutely wonderful, and I should probably do that, I've
Oh
not
my
used
god.
that to my advantage. No, I do it to help people.
Okay.
As odd as it may sound coming from me, I like to help people in any way that I can. So if somebody is having a midlife crisis or whatever, I will do what I can to help,
So,
whether it involves witchcraft or not.
so do you get like a bad rap? Like people think witchcraft and they think automatically like, oh my god, like she's a devil. Like, do you get
Oh,
that type
yeah.
of
Yeah.
responses?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, you need Jesus in your life. I'm like, honey, I think you need a little more Jesus than I do. Because I accept everyone for who they are. I'm not trying to change anyone for any reason, unless it's for the better for them.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's always good. Okay, so talking about real life,
Okay.
and you're going, and you're going through, and you're doing, you. And I'm gonna say it like I tell my wife, you're doing all your witchy shit. That's exactly what I tell her. Um, so as okay, so before I go into this, here's a question I have for you.
Okay.
And I know it's going to sound, and I'll explain why. Is it ever actually possible to accidentally put a curse on yourself? Because I think my wife did it because she's actually been married to me for 13 years. It was 13 years. I think she had to curse her. People say she put a spell on me. I think she actually put a spell on herself. Is there any way to make sure that that never gets broken so she doesn't realize what an ass I really am?
It's impossible.
There are ways, yes, but that's the
Okay, well,
darker side of magic that I don't really get into.
oh, you don't do the voodoo thing.
No, I can, but I choose not to.
Okay, so and while you're sitting here and we're doing and talking and listening and everything, we're formulating, ways to take the topics and all that. And
Sure.
we keep referring to, past guests and everything. And yes,
Hmm.
we know you're into the SL wrestling. And we've had people, everybody tells us, how they got into wrestling, being fans and that.
Hmm.
With what you do with all the history and the study and the practicing, which I'm sure you do, like my wife does, with all, how did you end up discovering SL? And was wrestling ever a part of it when you first got into it?
I first discovered Second Life in 2007 through that episode of CSI New York and the White Rabbit. That's what brought
Oh
me to
yeah,
SL.
Really? They had it on that. They had it on CSI. I didn't even know that.
yeah.
Yeah,
But here's the thing. Now I watched that episode, but I'd already been in SL, and I honestly I didn't care too much for CSI New York.
right.
Um, and what got me was the fact of already being a resident. That yes, and I'll say it this way: there were aspects of that particular episode that yes, I could sit there and go, you know what? Yes, that's SL. I can relate.
Hmm.
I've seen this, but then they were putting some effects in there, and we're talking, before PBR, before
Right,
Mesh,
right.
and they were putting effects in there like bleeding, like bleeding pictures, like actual bleeding pictures, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
you can't do that in SL.
right. No, I'm not a gamer. So I wanted something Sims like but better. And then I saw SL on there and I tried it out and I tried to do the game that they had set up for it and it kind of sucked. And then I ran into a friend of mine, Morgan Darkstone, who is actually my first friend in SL. Uh, and she introduced me to another friend, and then I got into the real SL.
Wait, what's the real
And
SL?
not the one they showed on TV, that's for sure.
So SL After
Um,
Dark, BK. That's what she's talking
yes,
about.
Well,
the SL
okay,
After Dark. Yes.
okay. So this episode, Paul, since you haven't seen it, what it was, and I'm not going to lie to you, I can't say, I just can't say verbatim, but what it was, the suspect or the killer in this particular instance, was using SL to find their victims. Get in there, basically defending them. Kind of like what we, do. Like, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Philadelphia. Hey, I'm from Nashville. Everything else. And they decided to catch this guy, and they did some research, and they actually had somebody went in and made an SL avatar, and they were showing it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember doing that. I remember doing that. And then they were showing the SL that, and I hate to say it this way, but it's the truth. It was like and I know SL is completely role playing; it's a virtual world, but they almost made it seem like a virtual fairy tale
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you can actually, how we always make fun of somebody by saying, "Oh, it's not always rainbows and gumdrops."
Yeah.
That was what they showed it as. Then, as they were getting closer to catching the guy, and they were quote unquote going into his quote unquote world, that's when you were seeing the dark hallways and the bleed, and the
Hmm.
walls bleeding, and they were, still they were talking on voice and world. You could see the lines over the head, so that part was real. And it was just like, okay, some of this is cool, some of this not so great.
Yeah. The
But
first
then
time I
you
seen
had
it
the
on
side of,
TV was on The Office. The Office did a thing on it too.
really?
Yeah. Or
I've never
Dwight.
seen The Office.
Oh, you
I've
never
never
watched The
watched The
Office?
Office.
Yeah, they did
Uh-uh.
like an episode where it wasn't as detailed as that. Like the one guy Jim on The Office always screws with Dwight, and Dwight was on an SL account and creating it, and the guy Jim made an account to mess with him. Yeah, that's the only time I ever seen it on like TV or anything like that.
And now there was a movie, Hot Tub Time Machine,
Yeah, yeah.
that the kid was on there, and
With the BK
he was in SL jail.
push-ups. He was doing
He was doing
push-ups. Yeah.
his push-ups in
I
SL
remember that
jail.
line. He's like, "You do the crime, you got to pay the time."
It's like, dude, just keep me out.
Yeah,
That's too funny.
But anyway, but then as Sabrina was alluding to, then you have this darker side of SL. Now, when I first got into SL, I was with somebody that is not who I'm married to now, with a former girlfriend. And I was brought into SL by somebody through, and I've said it before, and I'll date myself, through MySpace and that old game Mafia Wars.
Hmm.
Well, when I
I
started
remember
getting
that.
into when I started getting into SL, the first thing that the woman that I was with, okay, I'm gonna start looking and seeing what this SL is all about. And the only thing you could find on there was talk about all the adult stuff that goes on, people walking around, nude beaches, being able to do.
Yeah.
And so she thought I was basically logging into a virtual porn world, is what she thought I was doing.
Hmm.
So that's the real SL, is that the part that everybody didn't really want to talk about, but was talking about to keep everybody out of SL.
so is that what you
Yeah.
did, Sabrina? Like you said, you found the real SO.
I joined my friends in a strip club working, as most people do when they first join. But yeah, it was fun.
So how did
It
you
was
come
fun.
across SL Wrestling?
I came across SL Wrestling via an ex-boyfriend who wanted me to come and watch his brother. And so I did. And I've been a wrestling fan since I can remember in real life. So to
We
find
do,
out that
do,
they had it in SL was just fantastic.
do we want to say who it was you went to watch?
Yeah, you can. His name is Ras. Uh, at the moment, he's King Leo.
Okay.
King Leo, the
He's
God,
right.
man.
Wait.
Big things for
That's
him.
right.
He's
That's
in
right.
AVW.
Big things for King Leo.
He's in AVW right now.
Yep.
Yeah, isn't he a trainee?
No,
No, he's still
no, he
training.
graduated.
Yeah, he
Oh,
just
okay.
he
Okay.
just started.
Yeah, it was more a refresher course for him because it had been so long since he had been in the ring, and things have
Oh,
changed because it had been years since he had been in the ring.
right.
So
Not SO years, like real years.
so we had
Well,
on.
SO years are real
Yeah,
years.
yeah, it feels like forever. So we had on Fire was probably was our first guest, and you and Fire are really close, and you got Fire to come into SL Wrestling too, didn't you?
Yes, I did actually. She's still mad at me for it.
Yeah, we can tell how mad she is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Fire is my best friend that most people may or may not know. I know we don't get along in front of the cameras, but behind the scenes, yes. I
So
got her, she's got me.
so you came in and you the first wrestling you probably seen was what Premiere, right?
No, it was VWE.
Oh, VWE. Wow. I
Yeah,
thought you came through
this has been
Premiere.
a long time ago.
So what made you go to Premier Wrestling? Why didn't like instead of going to VWE or any other feds out there?
Um, it took me a while to get the nerve just to apply. I don't know why it took me so long, but it did. It took me a couple years before I even applied, and it was actually Luca that helped me get into Premiere.
Uh,
He was the reason I joined. So
Now, what was your thought of it when you first come in? Like, what was like the big thing of learning everything? What was the toughest challenge you had to face?
the toughest challenge I had to face was the backstabbing.
Welcome to SL Wrestling.
Welcome.
Exactly. So I'm a very trustworthy person. I will trust anyone until you give me a reason not to. I like to see the good in people, no matter what. If you're an asshole, I will try to find the good things in you, and
There's
I'm
nothing good
I'm
about
usually
me.
pretty good at that. But once you show that side, then I'm gonna cut you off, and that's it.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
the same way. I like helping people, and even if they do screw me over, or if they do something I don't like, I still help them. Some people say I have
same,
a hard time saying no to people. So,
I don't know. I
same.
don't. I don't. You
Fire
screw me
has.
over.
Uh huh.
Go ahead. No,
Oh,
I was
I
just
was
gonna
gonna
say
say
I'm one of those
fire has.
people.
Go ahead.
No, you're the guest. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah.
Fire has always been mad at me for, as she calls it, taking in strays for people who need help in any way, whether they're new to SL or just need some kind of friend to be there for them because they have nobody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, that's one thing in SL Wrestling that, and I'll give you advice that I had from, I'll say who gave it to me. It was Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and her thing told me that this kind of changed my perspective on SL. Kieran Winter, if nobody knows what I mean, who I mean, was, you know, you don't know what people on the other side of that monitor are dealing with. So like to get mad at them
Exactly.
over something stupid in wrestling or something, this might be what they do to escape their life. Maybe their lives are, they have health issues or whatever. Like you're
Exactly.
getting mad at them over something stupid. There's no reason to get mad at them over SL wrestling. And that kind of changed my perspective on like dealing with a lot of people because like I was one of
Hmm.
them that would get pissed off right away, like oh fuck these people, man, like I'm so fucking tired of them. And then
Yeah.
yeah, after she told me that, I kind of like looked at it like you know what, she's right. Like you know what I mean? Like if I
Yeah.
can
And
help
if you
them and
think,
make something they're doing a little bit better, you know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Then in most cases I found that easy to work with. Like I did something for somebody, or I made something better for them, or I went above and beyond to help them. Then they you kind of
Yeah.
they appreciate that, you know?
Yeah, they do. And if you really think about it, a lot of people in SL have some form of mental disability. Whether it's a big mental disability or a little mental disability, everybody's got one of some sort. Like OCD or depression. A lot of people deal with
Yeah,
depression.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know who that is. Somebody was calling me, oddly enough. But
Somebody was calling. Don't you? You need to go. Hey, we got important stuff going on here. I'll get back to you
I
later.
know. But yeah, there's a lot of things that people are dealing with behind the screen that nobody thinks about.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really looked at it like that until she told me that one day, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. And then it kind of changed my perspective a little bit on a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right,
So, go
so
ahead,
So,
BK.
you mentioned just out of your own mouth just moments ago that the one thing that you had to get accustomed to was the backstabbing.
yes.
Now, you have worked your way through the ranks in SL wrestling. You have trained, you have been in the ring, you've done just about everything there is to do, except for
Yes.
basically own your own Fed.
That's correct.
Now, with all of that, and from the time that you started, with what you said was your biggest obstacle then, what's your biggest obstacle now?
Same thing. Backstabbing. Always.
So you're saying that it's still going on. Is do you think it's as bad right now or
Oh,
worse?
I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but being in the position that I am in now, a lot of people want that power. And I am
But
in that position to be able to give them that power. And so, they're going to do a little bit of brown nosing to do what they can. So I got to be careful of that as well.
So let's talk about that.
okay,
Let's talk about AVW. So you just recently were announced. We're not going to go into the storyline of it, but
Right.
you were recently announced as the president of AVW. So what are
Yes.
your changes? What do you plan on doing with that? How do you make it more popular? How do you make people come to see it? What are some of the challenges you have right now facing that?
The challenges I have right now is that everybody thinks it's a developmental fed, which it's not. It's its own fed. We're getting rid of that stigmata slowly. Um, and I would like to change things so it's not necessarily exactly the way Premiere does it, but very similar. You know,
well, to be
I there's a lot of different ways that a lot of different people do things, and I'm trying to combine all those good things, if that makes
well, I
sense.
mean, but to be fair, and I'm saying this as me saying it, nobody else.
Right.
But in the short time that I was there, at times I did feel like that it was developmental because you only had
Hmm.
two, maybe three people that the name. And it's not that I have anything against people building their names and all that, but you only had two or three people that was there, and that was but the time was carrying the show, and everybody else was
Right.
was like an alt or something like that. So that, in all honesty, that's a fair perspective of
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely. And unfortunately, it's going to take time to build up. And I'm willing to put in that time and the effort to do that. It's not going to be an overnight success. I understand
No,
that. Nothing, very rare in this world is an overnight success.
No.
right.
So I'm willing to put in that time. I'm willing to put my ear out and listen to what others have to say.
Which is important, I think, in a lot of cases. Like, because again, and this is again, no offense
Hmm.
to Premiere or to you, but like you've been in Premiere since day one, right? You've never left. You never ventured outside.
Correct.
of, Premier Wrestling. So
Exactly.
the thing is, when you do that, it's like, all right, you want to make it different. You want to make it, you know, you know, give people an option to look like, wow, this is not Premier Wrestling. The only way you could do that really is to think outside the box of Premier Wrestling, because as people come to the show, and me and you've talked about this, if people come
Hmm.
to the show, they're going to look like, guys, this is another Premier show because it's booked like a Premier show. So
Exactly.
which I give you credit for, you listening to, me and among other people saying like, look, we got to make this different. We have to do this different because you want to kind of not separate yourself. Like, yeah, it's under the same umbrella, but we're not Premier
Right.
Wrestling. We're AVW, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
And again, that takes time to do.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately. It takes a lot of time. And, it's trial and error.
Yeah.
I'm going to make mistakes. I know that. I'm human. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm human. Mostly.
You're not human. You're a witch.
Yeah.
I am a witch, but
You're not human. You're a witch. You're immortal.
well, I have a pacemaker now in real life, so maybe I am immortal.
Cyborg.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I had a heart attack a couple years ago, and I actually didn't miss my show the next day.
That's dedication.
Wow, talk about dedication.
Yeah.
I get a cold
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm like, fuck this show today, man.
Nope. That's exactly how much I love wrestling. Nobody has put me up to doing that when I'm ill or anything like that. That's me. It's all me. That's how much I
Okay.
love it.
Okay, so since you just admitted that you love wrestling, and somehow or another we have been, I don't want to say pigeonholed, but somehow or another and it's not bragging, it's almost, and I know people are going to ridicule me for this, but Paul would agree that we kind of got a stranglehold on the SL wrestling part.
Yeah.
But yeah, with with you saying that you were a real life wrestling fan, when did that start? Because we've all heard the stories about how somebody got started, like Derek Zane, doing the real life stuff, and me and my grandfather, and people, brothers and dads and cousins and friends. How did your love of wrestling start?
Honestly, I can't remember. That's how long ago it started. It started when I was extremely little. Now, my mom told me my dad got me started on it, and my dad told me my mom got me started on it.
Which
Now,
means they both did.
exactly. But I will admit that I honestly don't really know my father. I met him like twice.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? I don't know how believable that is, but
My father told me at 13 years old he wished I'd never been born.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I get it. No, I get it.
But yeah, and then one day I found it in my uncle's room watching. I was flipping through the channels while he was at work, and I found wrestling. And at the age of, I think, 7 or 8, I was hooked. From then on, I mean, wrestling was my religion. If it wasn't wrestling related, I didn't care.
Okay, so that's gonna lead into, okay, you said you was in your uncle's room, was flipping through the TV channels. So what not the station, but what wrestling organization was it that you found?
WWF.
Okay. So you're not old school enough to say AWA or NWA or WCC.
Well, it may have been. It may have been one of the offshoots, to be fair. But I'm pretty sure it was on the USA Network. So I'm pretty sure it was WWF.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But I did find the other ones along the way, but yeah.
Okay, so favorite wrestler?
Favorite wrestler? Oh my god. I wanted to lie, but I can't. I'm not a liar. My honest all-time favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels. I have been in love with that man for many, many years.
Okay.
And then I was absolutely crushed when my ex-husband met him and said he was a dick.
Yeah, heard that too.
Well, he's probably changed now since he's turned his life around and stuff like that.
That's why he's a dick.
Because he turned his life around?
Yeah,
I heard that
yeah.
too.
Okay.
I heard that.
He turned his life around, and now he doesn't have time for the fans or to do the little stuff like meet and
Oh,
greets and stuff like that.
well, he's also kind of old too, so kind of like
Hey, he chose this life. He should be
yeah.
able to suck it up and be there for the fans that brought him the the fame that he has
Yeah, but
today.
you have to look at it. I always say this, you know, especially with celebrities, with wrestlers. I
Hmm.
mean, I think some fans go crazy and go way overboard.
Oh
But like
yeah,
you gotta like everywhere you go, you're recognized. Maybe not so much with
yeah.
wrestlers, but like celebrities or athletes, whatever, you're recognized. Like after a while, it has to get like Jesus Christ, man. I just want
Oh
to eat my dinner.
yeah,
I just want to go to the store and get my groceries. I just want to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
you understand it a little bit. Like I remember CM Punk, um, 2000 it was like 2004. 2003, 2004. He used to be in Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor was actually not far from my house, where they had a show, and I went there, and he was there, and I didn't really know him that well, but he seemed like that he was popular. Like a lot of people were like he was popular. A lot of people were cheering him and everything.
Hmm.
So we were coming out. It was in the gym. Me and my buddy were coming out. He comes out, and there's all these kids there, like kids, like teenagers, whatever. He comes out to ask him. He's like, "Go fuck yourselves," and gets in the car and leaves. I'm like, "Damn, dude, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
you just,
Wow.
I just paid $5 to see your wrestler. You're gonna tell people to go fuck themselves? Like, you ain't nobody." And then, I mean, sure enough, a couple of years later, I was wrong, but I was just
Right.
remember like, why, man? Why are you such a dick? Like, why are you gonna be such a dick like that? But hey, I mean,
Yeah. Like
some
I
people
get
are.
it.
Some people are.
Yeah, and I get that side of it. You want your privacy and all that, but when you are scheduled for a meet and greet, you're scheduled to be there by your boss.
Yeah.
That's kind of your job, is to be there and to put on that fake smile,
Yeah,
whether
I
you're
get it.
having a good day or not. You signed up to do that meet and greet. That's your job. You know, be a little bit thankful for your position of where you're at in life because of those fans
Well,
while you're at working, at least.
they figure they do that on camera. They have to do it in person. Oh, thank you. It's
Well, you
one.
got to realize, but you also have to realize, probably even though people cheering and stuff like that, it could have been that at that time before it was cool to be a heel.
Yeah.
People could have
Yeah.
been cheering him just because of that, and back then they were still really big on keeping kayfabe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, this has been like 10 years ago, so it wasn't too bad.
Oh,
But
okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, so been in SL wrestling. Who is besides yourself, of course? Who is one wrestler in SL that if you had the opportunity, you're like, hey, because I like how they do, I like hearing like how they do their matches, I like how they present their stories. Who's one wrestler that you would go if you didn't have anything else to do? Who's one
Hmm.
wrestler that you would go and watch not and when I say this, people understand because it happens to all of us. Like, hey, I'm going to watch this particular person, but their match isn't scheduled until the main event or mid card. And yes, I'm going to watch the rest of it, but I'm really here. Kind of like going to a concert.
Yeah.
Don't really care about the openers and who would you make an effort to go and watch every single week?
That's a tough one because there's really a lot of good ones out there.
What'd you say, Paul?
Nothing.
Okay.
I will admit, there again, that premier bubble comes up. I've been in that premier bubble. I'm always working. Let's see here. There's quite a few. Oliver, of course. I would love to watch Oliver. I was
Oh,
supposed to
please.
go and watch him last week, but I missed it.
We're gonna have to
Oliver's one of my favorites.
we're gonna have to edit that part out because once he hears that somebody would come to every one of his matches, his ego and his head is gonna blow up so big.
Yeah, Oliver's one. Let's see here, who else? I don't know a lot of names, to be fair. Benja, he's pretty good. He's a trip.
Benjamin
Yeah,
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Ben just funny too.
He is. Who else? There's a couple other names, but I don't quite remember their names, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about in Premier Wrestling? Like, who's some of your favorites in Premier Wrestling? Since, like you said,
Yeah, I definitely got those.
BK,
Obviously
BK,
Danny Thunder, Danny
BK,
Vigilante
BK,
Thunder.
BK.
Shut
You
up.
don't want to miss him. Um, X is a good one.
Mhm.
Derek Zane is always good. Ace puts on a top-notch show every time. Let's see here. Who else? I gotta put in Fire, of course. Gotta watch Fire. She's a trip.
Yeah, Fire's good. Fire's good on comms.
Yeah, she's good on comms. She's good as a manager. She's just all around really good at everything she does. And you're welcome, Fire.
Okay, so now I can tell you right now, this is all I'm going to say. So you might as well start thinking. I'm going to ask the one question that has stumped everybody except Cody Holy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cody did not give us the normal answer that we get for this particular question. It was for another one. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
Okay.
Your favorite opponent in SL Wrestling?
She don't wrestle. You don't
I
wrestle.
don't wrestle.
Yeah, she
But
don't
she
wrestle.
did. But she did.
I did wrestle. That's
She went
right.
through the
My
training.
favorite opponent.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would have to say Vena the Kraken.
Venna.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Vena the Kraken. She lit me on fire the last time.
Oh, and that's why you like her, because she lit you on fire.
No, I like her because she's a really good wrestler.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's some sadistic stuff.
No. We were in a. Oh shit! I forgot what it's called now. The fire match. Yeah.
Inferno.
Yeah, the Inferno match. That's what it was. And then
Yeah, I know about a couple of those.
I was the weakest link, so she caught me on fire.
So what
Yeah.
do you? So go ahead, BK. Go ahead.
No, you forgot what you were going to ask. What?
So
Your mind just went blank, didn't it?
So you, yeah, I did. So you basically, you're not like, you don't. I know that just from talking to you before. Like, you don't wrestle that much, but you do manage. What are
Yes.
some of the things you like about managing? What are some of your favorite things to do? Like either cutting promos or being involved in matches or.
All of it. There's nothing about wrestling or managing or any of it that I don't like. I mean, I don't like the backstabbing, obviously. Nobody does. But, you're going to get that no matter where you go. You know what I mean? You'll have that no matter what business you go to or what clique you get into. There's always going to be somebody that is jealous or mad or whatever. You're going to piss people off.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you do your position and you do it well.
Right.
I was gonna say they normally it said that if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing your job right.
That's my job.
Exactly.
I piss everybody off.
Exactly. So I don't do it on purpose most of the time, but sometimes.
Now, do you get nervous? Like when you come out and do promos, do you get nervous? Like, what's your preparation? Like when you're managing, you got to come out and do a promo. How do you do
I
it?
get nervous every time I go out there. Every time. I've been doing this for going on 4 years now, and I still get nervous every time I go out there. I get that nervous. Oh, I gotta go pee, but I'm going out. Oh my god. You know what I mean? But I love it all. I wouldn't change any of it.
Fair. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your questions ready. We have one that is already in queue, so make sure if you have a question for those who are listening in right now in our Discord to go ahead and pop it into the open mic. Sabrina, be ready. You never know what's going to be asked, and you never know where this conversation is going to go. But before we get into all that, let us take a quick time to recognize all of our sponsors. You will be listening to us at Fourth Wall with Paul and BK live on Dark Star Radio at darkstarradio.com. Aaron's Domain, Limitless Pro Wrestling, aka LPW, and one that our guests happen to be very familiar with, Premier Wrestling. All right. So we have a question here in queue, and it comes from Richie. Actually, Richie asked how many basically said he has a lot of them, so we're expecting more to come from him.
Okay.
But he wants to know what your favorite SLPW moment has been that you've been involved with.
And don't give the Xander Garcia answer saying the next one. We want a real moment.
All right. I will give you a real moment. My favorite so far, anyways, was the time that Miss Danny and I kidnapped Wish.
Kidnapped. I guess Ace wrote that.
Yes. We snatched her up, shoved her in a shopping cart, and took off. It was absolutely wild. It was absolutely ridiculous. The cart ended up clear across the ring in front of I was trying to get it up the steps, and it had worked over at my place because I had a mock-up of the stage.
But you had no lag.
And right. And I must not have set it up properly or something, and I could not get it up the stairs. And I just kept ramming that cart into the stairs. Vince eventually had to, in edit mode, pull us up to the stage, and then we went backstage. But YouTube cut it out because we were kidnapping Wish.
Really?
Yeah. It's my favorite moment, and YouTube cut it out.
Okay, so this is not necessarily a question, but this is a statement that Miss Pierce, since she wants to get on me saying I'm not saying her name correctly, which I'm probably not. I'm bad with names anyway. Where you were talking about the backstabbing, and I want you to respond to her and elaborate, even though it's already been said before. But she said, sadly, in the community, you get a lot of backstabbing, even from people you believe to be a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, I mean, yes, there's a lot of backstabbing going on. Yes, sometimes things are intentional. Sometimes things are not intentional. Sometimes it's perceived. But yeah, it is very difficult for, to honestly say um, that it's very hard to know who your friends are when it comes to the wrestling, even though you want to believe that people you work with, people you talk to and interact with on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis is treating you though. How would you, with her saying that, people believe are friends, and you said that backstabbing is one of the hardest. Do you agree with what she said, and have you ran into that yourself, where it's turned out to be more of a friend that stabbed you in the back, as opposed to somebody that you would actually be looking to stab you in the back?
No, not yet. Anyways, the people I've chosen to be close to as a friend, so far, anyways, there hasn't been anybody that's been that close to stab me in the back.
Okay.
Um, most of the time I seen it coming, and I like to think my witchiness had a little bit of help with that. But yeah, most of the time I saw it coming, and I knew who it was from, and it wasn't from anybody I would consider close.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to read this exactly how it is written. However, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm rolling my eyes at a couple of sections.
Okay.
Anyway, this statement that turns into a question, that turns into an ego stroke, comes from Natty. Yeah, seriously, I'm going to read this off.
Well, you
It
missed
comes
one.
from.
You missed one.
Hold on. No. Well, no, I didn't miss it. I intentionally skipped over because
Okay.
I wanted
I got
this
you.
one. I'm going to back up. Don't worry. It says, I'm Malice from Overload, 1 p.m. on Thursday. Shameless plug.
Kill your ego.
Mm-hmm.
My first question is, are we going to see Fire and Sabrina wrestle? And the second question is, are there any up and coming wrestlers that you got an eye on? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, basically.
Yes, Malice is definitely one of them. As far as the Fire and I wrestling match goes, probably. Probably, because we've been wanting to do something for a while, but every time we start to do something, something happens and we don't. It just
Okay.
That's usually the
epically
case.
fails. Whether I lose connection, she loses connection, somebody in real life gets sick and we have to change plans. It's just one thing after another at this point. So right now, there are no plans for Fire and I, but that does not mean that there is not something in the future.
Okay. And the second question is, go ahead and tell him, but then tell the truth. You got any up and comers you got your eye on?
The truth is, I haven't had a whole lot of time to watch, unfortunately. So I don't have my eye on anyone in particular. Because this is the first season I've ran the Fed completely on my own. Last season, it was mostly done up for me, and I just had to make sure the plans are followed. So
Okay.
I'm learning a lot as I go, and managing my time is a little. I'm learning to manage my time better.
So would it be fair to say, and because we know Premiere, and I'm not saying that every brand on Premiere does it, but we do know that Overload, Attitude, they, once a year they do the draft, and then you get
Right.
people that move in between the different brands for whatever reason, whether it be their RL scheduling or
Yeah.
just whatever. With you just got done saying that you've learned to manage your time more, and going into Malice's question about are you now going to have time, and are you going to make time to keep an eye on people, because you never know, it
Oh
may
yeah.
come up that that Malice is like, hey, look, this schedule for this one doesn't work for me anymore, but can you use,
Absolutely.
so you're going to start paying attention to more of that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Now we have another question from Richie. As a manager, how do you feel about the new talent in SLPW? Could we see new faces being a client for you to manage? I think somebody else is trying to vie for a position here.
At this time, I do not have time for another client.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean there won't be time in the future. Like I said, I'm learning the president role and trying to make sure I do right by that before I take on another client.
Just giving you a
Who do you
tough
who do
time.
you think's a better manager? You or that awesome guy on Attitude, Paul Slater?
Paul Slater
Ooh,
sucks. Come
that's
on,
that's
you
a tough
cannot sit there
one.
and say Paul Slater is a good
Hey,
manager. I mean, he's a
yo,
30-second man.
I
He's a
managed the
30-second man. He can't
champion,
even cut a good
the
promo.
undisputed champion.
No,
That's
no, no,
true.
no.
That's true. But at the same time, I'm also managing Danny, who is also a champion.
But Paul, come on, Paul Slater cannot do it, because I mean it's on. There is video evidence that 30 seconds is all you can last doing anything.
Guy cuts
You cannot
guy
cut a
cuts
good
great
promo in 30
promos.
seconds.
Guy cuts great promos. That's all I'm
He
saying.
does cut great promos. He does.
I'm just kidding.
But
I
anyway,
don't
Richie.
know. I
But
don't know
anyway,
who would
Richie.
be the winner of that one, but
Yeah. But Richie, I was just giving you a hard time. I didn't think you were actually vying for a position there. I know what you were doing. But anyway, now we have a question from Foxy Beth Ann, I should say.
Mhm.
Any new talent that you're happy to see move over to APW?
um well, I mean, I'm glad for anyone who makes it to the main shows, because that puts them out there a lot more than what AVW does. And as much as I love AVW, it's not on YouTube.
Right.
And that's the simple fact that, until we're not going to be as big as PW is. So if, someone gets pulled from AVW over to one of the PW shows, I'm very happy for them.
Now here's a question: do you think that they should record, say, APW, AVW, and Rise? Do you think they should be recorded so people can see what they're doing?
Yes and no. Yes, I do think it should be recorded, but at the same time, I don't think the shows are quite there yet. If that makes
Well,
sense.
well, what about, okay, so we know for a fact that there are the YouTube channels, excuse me,
Right.
Attitude and Overload. What if instead of recording the whole show, which you would have to record, somebody would have to record the shows. Of course, you'd have to do some editing to them. But
Right.
instead of worrying about recording the whole shows just to generate some buzz, why not do shorts of highlights from each show, and just wait, who is that? Wait, when was this? And then just put on there AVW
Right.
Wednesdays 4 p.m. SLT. Get just basically do vignettes and just tease them with it. Why not do something like that?
That is actually kind of in the works.
Oh,
I am currently waiting for Vince to give AVW their own YouTube channel
Okay.
And then once that happens, then I will be doing shorts and putting up the promos and a few other things on the YouTube channel for AVW.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a couple of questions here from Hammer, who is a former guest on here, and we are glad to see him back in and listening as always.
Hi, Hammer.
He wants to know his first question is, how do you feel about managers in SLPW?
I think they're wonderful. They're great. They're needed. We need more.
As long as they're the way, like Paul,
Like Paul, you need more guys like him.
no, like Paul. We know Paul is great on the microphone,
Right.
and right now he is teamed up with Bannock. Now Bannock can talk,
Correct.
but when you have somebody like Paul that can embellish that character, and everybody dislikes Paul, the the scumbag Slater character anyway, that's when you properly use it.
Right.
And I have nothing, and I think, and this is just me, so please don't think that I'm bashing anybody or whatever. But I've always been a believer that if you're one of the people in SL, and we know what happens a lot, you have males behind female avatars, you have females behind male avatars, and they
Right.
just people to focus on the avatar. When they do stuff where they can't voice, that's when I think they need to be put with somebody that can actually do it. Because to me, it's always been really odd, and I've been respectful of it because I've been on comms. But it's always been really odd for me when I would be the only one out on comms, or even Paul and I would be out there on comms doing it, and we're having to read off for a female avatar.
Yeah.
Because we can't put any emotion into it because we're just there to read it. We can't be involved in the
Right.
story because we're just there to read it. All we can do is just
Exactly.
read words. And I think that sometimes the unfortunate part of not being able to voice is that part of your storyline gets taken away because you can't have your side expressed. It's just written.
Exactly. And there are some people who can't voice for whatever reason, like you said, they're a male behind a female or a female behind a male, or
Right.
sometimes there's a reason somebody can't voice.
Right.
I know somebody who can't voice because she was attacked when she was younger. She literally doesn't have a voice box.
Right.
So for people like that, yes, I absolutely 100% believe managers are very key for people like that.
Okay. Now, to elaborate on that part, he goes on to say, he says, you two notwithstanding, I guess he's talking about me and Paul. He says, do you feel that it's viable using them full time, or is it too difficult to manage someone exclusively as a manager for the majority of people? So I guess let's break it down and say, is it viable to use them full time if they're used properly, or
Yeah,
is it
absolutely.
like we
I
just
don't.
talked about if you can't voice?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a manager and you voice, obviously, it's kind of the requirement of being a manager is to voice. At least in PW. Yeah, I mean, it's very key for someone with voice to be able to get that emotion out for their client.
Now,
well, it's tough. I mean, real quick, it's tough because when you're managing, you're not only going out there, you're not selling yourself, you're selling your person,
someone else,
somebody else, which a lot of people, especially in SL wrestling, have a hard time doing. Like, you
exactly.
go out there and you're talking, and like you want to talk about you and how great you are, but you really have to talk about, you know what I mean? That's why I think some people have
it is hard.
Some people have a little bit difficulty about it.
It is hard, but that's where the communication between you and your client come into play. With Miss Danny has a promo, she writes down what she wants to say, and then I flip it into my words and add a little bit of me into it. Because in the end, it's about her, not me.
Right.
And that's what some people choose. That's why there's not a lot of managers, is because the manager role is actually for someone else. It's not to promote yourself. And a lot of people aren't cool with that. They're greedy. They want that spotlight. And I get it. It's intoxicating.
Now, one thing, and this is something I'm going to say, I'm not going to name any names, because I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus. I'm not going to be disrespectful, but anybody who is listening to this, whether you listen to this live or listen to this later on, you have to agree that, in all honesty, there are people past and present. So I'm doing a very wide blanket here.
Mhm.
There are people from past and present, in all honesty, who should have even though they can get on voice, they need to have
Yes.
somebody speak for them, because
Yes.
either they haven't been properly taught the right kind of promo skills,
Mhm.
or they're too monotone, and they just, and I hate to say this, but they don't generate enough excitement, which means that
Right.
if somebody's listening to them and they're like, okay, when's this going to be over, you're not going to want to watch them as a performer, because you're like,
Exactly.
well, they have. So do you believe that it's okay if you tell somebody, look, I know you want to, but you're really not, we're going to sign you a
Oh,
mouthpiece,
yeah.
somebody who's got, do you believe in, are you okay with telling people, no, you don't need to be on mic? Or are you just one of those, like, look,
Oh,
it's your
yeah. No,
character,
I can
do what
tell
you
somebody
want to,
that
whatever.
very easily. I've told people that actually. I've straight out told them, I'm sorry, you don't have the mic skills. Let somebody else do it for you. Yes, I have said
Well, I
that.
mean, the whole key is,
Well,
and I tell this to a lot of people, like, especially with Bannock. Bannock's a trainer, and
Hmm.
I go and watch him a lot, or him and Tiesa for AVW at least. And it's like with promos, like the most important thing, at least to me, I'm speaking only for myself, is when I go out there and do a promo, I have to believe everything I'm saying. All right,
Right.
because if I go out there and I don't write my promos. I get bullet points in my head and I go, but if I'm saying stuff and I'm not believing what I'm saying, you're not going to believe what I'm saying either.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that I've watched people who've done promos, and it's like, wow, man, and sometimes it sounds like they're just reading it off a piece of paper, and it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't even believe what they're saying. So like, I think what you're saying is like some people who can't talk. There is some people who can talk that do have a hard time expressing that, excitement and
Emotion.
emotion. I
Yes.
mean, that's right, and emotion and everything. And it's not an easy thing to do. But like my whole thing, I tell people is, you have to believe everything you're saying, because
Yeah.
if you don't believe it, even if it's bullshit, like if you don't believe it, then they're not going to believe it either. You know. So that's my
Exactly.
opinion.
okay, and I think we kind of touched on this, but out of respect for Hammer, because he took the time to type it out, his last question that at the end of all this is, what would you advise, or how would you advise for people wanting to use or be a manager in SLPW?
What would I advise?
Yeah,
Just simply speak
like
up.
if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, I'd really like to be a manager," or somebody comes up to you and says, "Look, I'd like to have a manager," how would you approach both of those?
I would welcome them with open arms. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, what would
We
your
need
advice
more
be?
managers. Uh, and their roles are very key. Um, yeah, especially for those who don't speak or who do speak and shouldn't, because we all know there's people out there that can speak but probably shouldn't.
Hmm.
But you got to look. Here's another thing, and I get it what you're saying,
Hmm.
and I'm going to rephrase what I'm saying. It takes a lot to go out there and become a character and talk
Yeah.
and speak. It takes a lot to do that. Like, you know what I mean? So you can't really disparage anybody from saying, no, you can't talk. There's a lot of people
Right.
who refuse not to talk. Like they don't want to
Yeah.
talk at all. And that's fine. That's their right. They can do that. But like, if you have, my thing is, if you have enough, like you're not nervous enough to go talk in front of a crowd or a bunch of people and everything like that, like
Uh huh.
you want to encourage more people to do that. It's just maybe having them work with people who are good at promos, people who've been doing this a long time, and then have them help them craft the character, have them craft the way you're going to speak to people, have them craft something like that. I think having trainers
Oh,
in
yeah.
not just in wrestling. Look, I suck at wrestling. I don't like doing it, but I am good. The one thing I am good at is I'm good at promos. I'm good at prepping, and I'm good at my character and how I present myself. I think a lot of people there should be a training course on like, this is how you manage, this is how you do it. Because there's sometimes I
Hmm.
see people over the course of the last 5 years that are training people how to do promos, and I'm like, man, you can't cut a promo to save your life. How are you going to tell somebody else to? So I think you need good people who are good at talking, like Derek Zane. Derek Zane's great with
Yeah.
promos. You know what I mean? Have
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah,
like
as long as
him.
he does it, as long as he does Christopher Walken.
But
Oh
like
my
like
god.
even BK, like BK, I'm gonna keep myself like BK. BK knows how to go out and cut a promo. He knows how to go out and
Right.
that. I've seen Hammer and Honor do it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people out here who are good at cutting promos who could teach the people who
Hmm.
are not afraid to speak, teach them how to be better. I think you need
Yeah.
more training in that aspect. That's just my
Well,
opinion.
well, I can't speak for others, obviously, but I do know that PW has a manager training session once a month. That, as far as I know, people are welcome to come to, and so yeah.
But
Okay,
I mean, the
so
emphasis on real quick. The emphasis is on wrestling, though. That's like the main priority. Like, if you
Right.
want to be a wrestler, all right, we'll get them trained to be a wrestler, and then after that, it's up to you if you want to be good at promo. So yeah, I could encourage
Yeah.
people to go to them classes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
oh yeah, yeah. You take in every class that you can that you have time. RL schedules and all that. But yeah, it doesn't matter how long you've been in it. If you can pick up, you never know. You can go into a training class and yeah,
Hmm.
I know. I've been here. I've been here, and then all of a sudden somebody says something like, "Wait. You do what? Wait. Teach me that." You never know when you're going to learn something because you
Yeah.
can learn something from every single
Even
day.
though I've been doing this for 4 years, literally every position except owner, I still go to the classes.
Yeah,
I'm still learning. And not only that, but I'm also there to help someone else should they need help
yeah,
to learn.
training's good, and like that's another thing too. Going back to the promos real quick, it's like I hate when I'm listening to somebody do a promo and you hear somebody, oh man, this guy sucks. This guy sucks at promos. He already got
Hmm.
half the battle won. He's out there doing it, and that's more to say about a lot of people. They can't do it. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? So all he needs or she needs is a little bit more training and how to craft your promo better, how to present it better. That's it, and that
Yeah.
training would help you do that. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And it
Okay, so
does.
okay, so we're now we're now into the little corner here of SL Wrestling, and we don't like to give away storylines. We don't like to give away spoilers. So we'll just kind of go back. We'll just kind of touch a little bit on past things. Okay,
Okay.
so Vince Aftermath.
Okay.
Your I don't know. Have you guys divorced yet?
Ex fiance?
He is now the ex fiance. He is now the,
Yes.
the complete ex fiance. Okay, so Vince Aftermath. I'm just going to come out. How in the world did he convince you to do that storyline with him? Because we know how annoying he can be.
Um, to be fair, it was actually kind of the other way around.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah.
You convinced him?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a mutual convincing. I had mentioned how I've been here for so long and not seen any love stories. Like, why?
Okay.
Why are there no love stories? Like, I get it, sex is not the main thing as far as wrestling goes, but spice it up a little bit. I grew up in the 90s era, tits and ass, all that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, spice it up a little bit. And I wrote out a mock storyline to get his opinion, and he liked it. And so he converted it to him.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not gonna lie to you. I was completely convinced that he would have had to have talked you into it. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I really
I
would. I
know.
had it in my head that he would have had to talk you into it. That's why I asked that. So I stand corrected. It wasn't him. It was you. So what were you thinking? No.
What was I thinking? I was thinking, man, this is going to be awesome. This is going to make everybody's head spin. And it did.
So so without doing any spoilers, but just to kind of do you plan on torturing him anymore?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And you're gonna are you planning on doing any like seances and shit?
I can't give those secrets out.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to AVW and Premiere.
Exactly. You got to watch. You have to come and watch.
It's
Oh,
heating
see,
up.
see
It's
that
heating up.
See, that is a very good promotional answer. You have to tune in to watch. You have to tune
Yep.
in to find out. You have to be there to see what's going on. You can't watch it on YouTube.
Yep. Exactly. Every
All
Wednesday
right.
at 4 p.m.
Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're almost out of time. So, this is the part where you have the floor, quote unquote, is completely yours. Do you have any kind of knowledge, any kind of information, anything that you wish to pass on to people to, about the SL wrestling community, and things like that, or anything that you wish to bestow upon everybody to maybe enlighten them for the day?
Um, just remember one thing. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. That's all there is to it. Keep it simple. It's the simpler it is, the more awesome it will turn out. Because you don't. I mean, yeah, everybody wants to have these big fancy matches, and that's great. But not everybody can pull it off.
Right.
If you can pull it off, great. But if not, take your time. Do what you can do and make that awesome. Because it's not all about being the SMF or Danny Thunder of SL. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Do what works for you. Take your time, breathe, enjoy it.
Okay. Well, that's fair. All right. Now, Paul, the last time that I looked, we are still sitting, but we finally reached our century mark on subscribers.
Yep.
We finally reached the 100 subscriber mark, and we are so thankful for everybody. So please be on
Congrats.
the lookout in our Discord because we have a giveaway coming up
Yeah,
over
I
this.
think
And I think, Paul,
that's
you're working on it, right?
yeah, probably within the next week we'll make the announcement on the Discord what we're going to be giving away, give everybody a chance to sign up, and then find a winner or two, or maybe even three winners. We'll see.
All right.
Nice.
Well, Sabrina, it was a delight. It was a pleasure. It was great being here to talk to you. But we do want to
Well,
thank
thank you.
everybody. Yeah, and do want to thank everybody. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you get us out there and get our names out there and get SL Wrestling and people to know that we are not all on the seedy side of that world. Want to thank you all very much, and we will catch you all next time.
Have a blessed day.
Fourth Wall Podcast with Paul and BK. We are bringing you a form of entertainment like never before at SL. We're going to dive into how real life crosses into SL with stories you may or may not know being told by the people behind the avatar and give you a different perspective on what you thought may have known. Shows drop on YouTube each and every Sunday. You can also catch us on Dark Star Radio every Monday at 6 a.m. SLT, then again repeating on Thursday at 12 p.m. SLT. For more information, contact Paul Slater or BK Tigerfish.